Oh, for God's sakes, what? Okay. All right, we're live. At least that's what it says. It says I'm live. Although it also is telling me that YouTube's not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming, so you might have buffering. Ugh. We'll see what happens. How's it going? Initially, when I came up here, everything said, oh, it's super good. You're streaming awesome. Now YouTube is like, no, you suck. All right, well, hopefully it's not too bad, everybody, and hopefully things clear up. I mean, it looks fine on my side. Oh well. Hello! Welcome back to the channel. It's been a while. Uh, over a year. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm kind of surprised that I'm back too. I'll be honest, I've not been like gone. Uh, I do have another YouTube channel called Restless Shadows that admittedly I haven't posted to in a little bit, but there is work going on in the background. Oh, but now says my stream status is excellent, so let's hope that stays the way. Um, so I've been still doing some stuff. I'm still running EnglishLightNovels.com, which admittedly I've been really bad at keeping that updated too, so I probably shouldn't make a big deal about that. And I've been doing some other light novel stuff in the background, but I'll be really honest, I haven't read a light novel in about 2 years. Um, I just got burned out on them. I mean, I think that a lot of light novels were just feeling very much the same, and so I kind of was like, I need a break. But that is not entirely the reason that we are here tonight. And thank you for asking. I've been okay. I've been doing all right. Been busy. Uh, I'm in management now at my workplace. That has been kind of crazy and very busy and. No intention of bringing back the light novel podcast. Sorry. Um, okay, so we can talk about other stuff, but let's get right to the crux of the matter. So, Isekai. So, Anime North is a anime convention that occurs in the last weekend of May every year in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, which is relatively close for me to be able to travel to, so I am typically there. Um, Previous years, I've done a bunch of panels. Last year, I did none. I mean, it was the first one after COVID, so I kind of like laid low, just sort of got back into things. And this year, kind of got onto an isekai panel. I don't know. Like I had said last year that I was interested, and then it didn't happen. And so the guy that I had reached out to last year said, "Hey, do you want to do it this year?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, sure, why not?" Um, just because I think isekai is an interesting discussion to have. It can be, I think, maybe the best and absolute worst of things that go on in anime, manga, light novels. I think it's got a lot of opportunities. I think it has a lot of prospects for storytelling. In fact, if we go back historically and look at isekai, there's been some actually really good stuff. Um, and I'm sure there's probably still some okay stuff right now, although we did go through a good number of years where, man, it was a lot of the same stuff. So, first of all, if we look back at Isekai, I mean, so it's interesting. One of the things that I want to talk to you guys about, I'm going to be all over the map. I'm really sorry. I'm going to be super scattered. I have not actually done a live thing like this on YouTube since my last one, which was I think January of 2022. So it's been more than a year. So if if I'm all helter skelter all over the place, I do apologize, but I'm way out of practice on this. Like super, super out of practice. Not that I was ever really good at it to begin with, but it is what it is. So let's see. Yes, I will try and do some Q&A. Yes, yes, yes. So Isekai, it's funny how when you're thinking about Isekai, you just start recognizing all these things that you're like, oh, that's an Isekai. Oh, that's an Isekai. Historically, though, what I find kind of interesting is that if we look back on the Western side of things, Isekai, in terms of modern Western literature over the last, say, 100 years, I mean, obviously Alice in Wonderland, The Wizard of Oz, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. We could probably make an argument for John Carter of Mars. So we have had isekai, like it's a thing, right? And even when you take a look at stuff like in the 90s in anime purposes, I mean, Magic Knight Rayearth, Fushigi Yugi, Vision of Escaflowne, Battler Aura Dunbine, which I actually haven't seen, although I know that the guy that I'm doing the panel with, he wanted to talk about Aura Battler because it is an earlier sort of isekai thing. And I just find it interesting that it was kind of like there was a lot of, it seemed, female-oriented isekai in the 90s, and stories that I would say had some very deep resonance to them in terms of relationships, friendships, much in the way that I would say a lot of shoujo type stuff does. But then, like, we kind of see this change around the early 2000s. Like, obviously, Sword Art Online gets talked about a lot. In fact, that's something that I want to address tonight, and we're going to chat about, I think. Because I've been doing some research on isekai, because I don't want to sound like a complete moron when I'm on this panel. But to me, a lot of these things, I'm like, okay, isekai. So, like, when did isekai become popularized as a genre? When did we start talking about isekai as isekai? Because let's be honest, you go back to Fushigi Yugi, you go back to Magic Knight Rayearth, you go back to, a Vision of Escaflowne. Nobody talked about that stuff like it was isekai, right? Like, that was not considered the genre at the time. And it really wasn't until we see like sort of that late 2000s, 2010 and so, that isekai becomes kind of a thing. In fact, so much that I'm sure most of some of the writing competitions in Japan were like, we don't even want you to say the word isekai. We don't want like you cannot submit anything to us that could be considered isekai because we be tired of it. And when I go back and look at this, I'm sort of like, okay, so what was it? What flipped that switch? And it's interesting how many of these sort of articles go back to Sword Art Online. And I find that really interesting because Sword Art Online, when you take a look at it, like Sword Art Online in terms of its online publication started around 2002. And I mean, I'm sure it had something of a following, but let's be honest, nobody published it until, Inuyasha, that's another one that was earlier. But like, people didn't publish Sword Art Online until Kawahara had won with Excel World. It was actually Excel World that opened the doorway for him to move into and then publish Sword Art. And by that point, Naru, that sort of, So You Want to Be a Writer website, there were already a glut of people writing isekai stories. In fact, funny enough, and now I don't have the actual, I should bring up the article here because it was interesting to me. Give me one moment here. So on Wikipedia, and again, is Wikipedia trustworthy? I don't know, guys. It has its moments, that's for sure. But what I find very interesting is that Wikipedia, when you start looking into it, it actually says that really what seems to have flipped the switch on Isekai was The Familiar of Zero, which came out in 2004. And that's because apparently, I guess, one of the things that happened with Naru is a lot of people started to do fan fiction of this series. And this actually apparently, according to Wikipedia, opened the doorway to a lot of the isekai stuff on Naru. In fact, they say that the author of ReZero, Nagatsuki, wrote fan fiction of The Familiar of Zero. So that's really interesting to me. And it actually, I think brings a whole other aspect into this. I just kind of feel sometimes that whatever was most popular and whatever, everybody sort of looked at it and went, oh, Sword Art came out and so that's it, man. Everything's because of Sword Art. And I don't think that's true. I would not be surprised if Sword Art was maybe an influence to get a lot more of these light novels and isekai stuff into anime. And I see a couple of you talking about Mushoku Tensei. I mean, Mushoku Tensei is an older series when you talk about actual web publication, but didn't get an anime until substantially after the fact of Sword Art Online. And so I kind of feel like I don't think the story is entirely fiction, that Sword Art maybe had a hand in playing with anime becoming more isekai aware, but I don't think that we can say that the popularity and explosion of isekai is because of Sword Art Online, at least in terms of web novels and light novels. That's my feeling. I don't know how any of you feel about that. I mean, maybe you think I'm completely out to lunch, but I kind of feel what I find interesting, and I mean, particularly, I know there's a lot of other stuff that is obviously happening. I obviously talked a little bit in my post announcing this stream. I talked a bit about how it's been male power centric since the sort of mid 2010ish time period, where at the point where everybody was like, please don't send us any more isekai. It was a very male centric, harem centric type genre. And I know that it's now kind of turned around a bit and we're getting a lot more female characters. We can see a lot more, we're seeing a lot stronger female characters. We're kind of it's funny to me because it seems like we're almost returning back to the 90s where again, Fushigi Yugi, Escaflowne, Magic Knight Ray Earth, there was a lot of female centric isekai then. And I kind of feel like we're sort of going back to that, but it's still, I feel like, and again, I have not read a hell of a lot of the stuff, especially that's come out in the last 2 years. I haven't read anything in the last 2 years. But I kind of feel like a lot of these female ones, they could have been a male, but they're just gender flipping it. You know what I mean? How do I put it? I don't feel necessarily like they are blending things Fushigi Yugi, Inuyasha, that kind of bit of mix of genres that, a lot of heavily influenced on actually building up relationships, secondary characters and everything else. They feel like it's people just telling the same story, but now they're using females instead of males. And don't get me wrong, I see somebody calling out Ascendance of a Bookworm. I mean, I kind of feel like that that's a different kind of isekai. And that to me, I was very interested in that series because, again, it wasn't fan servicey. It wasn't super harem-esque. I mean, obviously I haven't kept up with it. So maybe it's become maybe there's a million guys who are in love with her. I don't know, but but it didn't feel like that it was the same mold, obviously, especially when it was initially starting off where the main character's whole purpose was just to get books, right? Yeah. that it just seemed to me like it was very, very different, right? Um, so I guess this is kind of where I start talking a little bit about what I kind of feel has been going on with isekai. And you know, like again, I'm no I'm absolutely no expert. Like, it's not like my word is law. I mean, I know that there's probably lots of people that follow me here that can read Japanese. You may even have been able to have access to articles and stuff that I don't know about. So, you know, again, feel free to come on back and tell me if you've got information I don't have. I love to hear it. That's part of the reason I'm here tonight. But it just kind of seems to me like the what we kind of see in that like 90s is that we have a lot of series where, now again, maybe this is controversial, but I kind of feel like the 90s, we had female writers that were creating stories about females leaving our world and finding themselves empowered in another world, right? And being able to make a difference and being important. And it was kind of like you almost got the sense that the female experience in our world wasn't a great place to be. And so they go into this other world and they find like love. They find like, that they find like their self-worth. They become powerful. They're able to change the world. There's, and again, like, this may just be me projecting. This may just be me, like, this is my interpretation of the media as I'm watching it. I wouldn't say that, obviously I have no idea really of what the cultural reference of Japan was at that time. But what we do know, and I think most of us can agree, is that kind of like when you get back into the whole 2000s and where you kind of see isekai become male power fantasies, I kind of think that was a little bit of a response to just the world kind of going to poop, like, and a lot of men, mostly it seems to me like, when we talk about shut-ins, hikikomori and stuff like that, they predominantly seem to be male. And so I kind of wonder, and this is, again, just me conjecturing based on what I see and what I've heard. And, again, I don't have any statistics to back this up. I welcome them, absolutely. But it seems to me like as we got into sort of the early 2000s, there were a lot of like male power fantasies, right? Like, when we take a look at things like Infinite Stratos, when you take a look at things like High School DD, when we take a look at, there's probably a million others that I'm not thinking of just off the top of my head. Yu Yu Hakusho, if I probably butchered the name of that. But anyway, I guess what I'm getting at is that initially in sort of like in the late 90s, early 2000s, you have male power fantasies, but the men are in our world. They gain powers in our world. They understand and find out that there's things going on in our world that they didn't maybe know about or that they have to combat. There's the whole harem aspect, blah, 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 blah. Right? So you really had, like, when we talk about male power fantasy in isekai, that already existed in anime and manga and light novels, but most of them were set on Earth. And then all of a sudden it seems like a switch gets flipped, and maybe it's because the Familiar of Zero people were like, whoa, wait, this is actually kind of a great idea, right? Maybe it represents an idea of, Japanese male otaku, if you want to say, becoming sort of disillusioned, disenfranchised with our world. And so they kind of key into this idea of isekai allows me to escape this world and become something even better, something even stronger in another world, make a new life, not have to answer to the rules of this world, not have to answer to my parents, not have to answer to, Japanese societal norms, not have to answer or follow all of these sort of things that we've had. And I kind of wonder if that's where we see sort of this switch, right? And why maybe a lot of it comes out of Naru. Because, of course, Naru, it's a website. Like, you're literally sitting in your bedroom at home typing away, right? You can create this completely, different kind of idea. And actually, okay, so Aaron, you bring up a good point. Was that in a lot of, so maybe now, like, things are getting in new isekai. Are you saying so, Aaron? I just want to make sure that I'm interpreting what you're saying. So, like, with male power fantasy and sort of where isekai sort of explodes and stuff, it seems like the male characters really get this power easily. It's not like it earns it, right? I mean, we do have lots of stories where, like, like ReZero, right? Subaru is like, man, that kid, he takes a crap kicking. Um, um, and okay, so Twilight, you might be right. Like, it could very be by pressure towards men, responsibility, they want an escape. It could just be that, like, we could also be seeing, and again, I hate talking, like, really getting too generational or anything, but let's be honest. Like, if you're a millennial, if you're a Gen Z, like, you guys have grown up seeing that the world is, like, junk, right? There's a lot of crap in the world that is really not cool, and really, like, you see the systems are broken, you see that the systems aren't fair, you see that the systems really are outbalanced depending on your class, your social structure, it could be race, gender, blah blah blah, like, etc etc etc, it goes on and on and on. And so, I, I don't think that the idea of people seeking out stories that get them away from our modern world and our world as it is right now, I don't think that's really all that particularly shocking. I kind of think, like, that makes sense. Again, this would be kind of a question that I have is, like, were women, particularly girls, was there very rigid social structures and very rigid expectations and everything else for girls in the 90s in Japan? Maybe that was why there was more of these female characters going to other worlds. Um, you know, and again, like, maybe that we're just seeing sort of a different thing, right? So, yeah, it could be a bunch of things, right? Um, Again, yes, like, you could be talking about job culture in Japan. You could be talking about just social pressures and everything else. There's a lot of factors, I think, that go into isekai. Isekai, let's be honest, like, isekai is a very easy genre to have access to, because you can take a character who is basically yourself and drop them in a world where you get to play God and make all the rules. And that's very appealing because, when you talk to a lot of writers, one of the first things they ever talk about is, hey, write what you know. That's one of the first pieces of advice almost anybody ever gives you about writing. Write what you know. And so people are writing what they know, right? It's like, okay, we're writing what we know. We know who an otaku that's disengaged with the world, who just wants to play video games, who blah blah blah. We know that guy. That, the people writing these books know that guy, right? Yes, Aaron. Okay, so you're right. So, like, yeah, like, this was the thing, and you're correct. That was sort of a switch in isekai power fantasies for males, was that, in the 90s, 2000 and stuff, a lot of that was males earning power. Sure, they became incredibly powerful, let's not be wrong, but, they had to earn it. There was, like, sort of a learning curve. There was sort of a thing that you had to push yourself. But, like, now, literally, guys get hit by truck-kun, they wake up and they're like, oh, I basically am godlike now. Look at that. Ha ha, cool. Uh, But again, and and believe me that I don't say anything to be slagging on any particular person or country or anything like that. I just think, like, this is Japanese media, so we have to sort of think about what's going on in Japan. And when we do see, like, a lot of news coming out of Japan about the population of hikikomori being higher than it ever has been before, when we do see, like, things coming out of Japan about exceedingly low birth rates because, like, men and women just don't seem to be in relationships, like, and there's a lot of reasons for that, and I could not even begin to understand or comment on it, but I think that there is obviously seems to be this drive for escapist media, right? So I don't really think that, I don't think it's really that shocking that isekai is a thing. I mean, really, again, if we take a look at it, Western media's had our versions of isekai. Lit RPG is, of course, very isekai adjacent. I mean, it basically is isekai. It's just that it's the game mechanic version of isekai, but again, it's still basically the same idea, right? Yeah, it is very, it's very different in terms of where we saw, like, before, where power had to be earned, right? But then again, like, I find it interesting that, you have series like, I'm in love with the villainess, which is an isekai, and it's being used to comment on a lot of social issues in Japan. And I think isekai in general has been kind of, in a way, used, and we can argue whether to varying degrees. But like, J.K. Haru is a sex worker in another world. There's an isekai that very heavily is talking about women's issues and feminism, and and how women kind of overcome certain things even on a subversive level. And again, I'm not arguing that it did a great job of it, but I'm just saying, like, it's interesting that isekai also has been used to try and address some social issues, because let's be honest, I mean, we hear that Japan can be quite rigid, right? So I think that that's an interesting aspect of isekai as well. And I just think that isekai as a genre is just so accessible for writers. It's very accessible for an audience. We understand the rules. Obviously, isekai has very much changed over time. We've had isekai where obviously it was people transported to another world. That was very much like that 90s female type isekai, right? Inuyasha, Fushigi Yugi. It was girls being transported to this other world. And then, of course, we get into, and we can argue back and forth who started it, but I mean, Mushoku Tensei is probably the one that most people come to as being the truck-kun, the reincarnation aspect of isekai, where you have a character reborn in another world, but they still retain memories, ideas, and stuff from our world. That, that became a thing. But one of the things that I kind of, sorry, I'm just trying to get caught up on some of the comments here too. Yeah, okay. So Nelson and Messier, you're both, I think that is true too, right? That slow life in another world. Um, I think I called that out when I was reading some of the light novels. Like, what was that? I killed 300,000 slimes or whatever, and now I'm the strongest. Anyway, there's a ton. There's a ton. But that became a big thing in isekai too, right? Japanese people dying of overwork in our world and then living a slow life in another world. And I think that you could definitely make the case that that's reflecting a bit of a psychological need of modern Japanese people. I think honestly that's kind of reflecting a need of modern people in general. My God. I think a lot of us think that, wow, being able to slow down would be ideal. Um, you know, but I just think that isekai allows for a lot of freedom, but at the same time, it lets you take that main character and use them as sort of a bedrock, right? Um, like I think that's a thing. Um, now, what? So here's a question for you, and maybe this is we'll get into a bit of an argument. Um, do you think? Do you think even that Sword Art Online is an isekai? Because, like I said, everywhere I go, they're like everybody becomes so discussions of Sword Art Online. Do you think Sword Art Online is an isekai? I should probably I could do a poll if I could figure out how to do a poll. Slow life. Oh my! Did you see my? You're talking about my samurai chicken back there. That chicken is like the thing. Okay, yeah, I love that samurai chicken. We found that we found that one night. Um, I can't remember. I think we were just chatting in Discord, a few people, and we found that. And oh my god, I laughed so hard. What was the joke? I think it was like we were like replace any word in a light novel title with chicken. I think it was. uh anyway, yeah. Okay, so first half yes, second half no, everything after yes, not at all. Maybe you could make an argument for some arcs, but as a whole it's more like sci-fi, fair. Um there's a manga about a chicken. Okay. Uh SAO is not an isekai. Game World is still another. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I kind of I almost feel like Sword Art Online, no. Sword Art Online Progressive, maybe. Um, but I think the thing about isekai in general though is that isekai to me, and again, this isn't like it's not like I make the rules, but isekai to me seems to be very much about a person entirely going to another world, right? So like the so if you think about it, with Sword Art Online, yes, they are kind of living in another world, but physically they've never left our world, you know? And they know exactly how they got to that other world, and they know exactly how to get out of that other world, right? It's definitely not the same as somebody being transported to another world. It's definitely not the same as somebody being reborn in another world. It is definitely completely different to me, again, um, as opposed to, like these people are playing a video game. They didn't get isekai. They didn't get sent to another world. They aren't actively living in another world, right? Um, Basically a person going outside their comfort zone, I think you can say about an isekai. Well, I mean, again, like I kind of think of Sword Art Online as being, I often use the term as isekai adjacent. So it's like it's not an isekai, but it certainly is heavily borrowing from elements of it. But somebody earlier mentioned dot hack. That's absolutely same idea, right? Stuck in a video game, something heavier is going on in the video game. It's supposedly like you're living sort of your alternate life in a video game. Um, it's a different thing, right? Um, you know, as opposed to say like Log Horizon, where they're living in a game, but they actually have been transported there. They actually are living in that game. I mean, as best as we know. I has has Log Horizon actually ended? Does anybody know? Like, did they ever answer that? Like, what the hell happened there? Yeah. Um. Well, okay, and this is a good point too. Like, is an isekai strictly that you can never go home? Like you go between, like if you can go between worlds, is it still an isekai? Like I think it still is. I think it still is. I mean, you're still physically going to another world. You're still being transported to another world. And I mean, let's be honest. A lot of isekai, even if the person doesn't go back and forth, a lot of them do end with the person returning to our Earth if they were transported. Some of them do, not all. I shouldn't make it sound like there's a lot. Most people just end up seeming to live in the other world, especially when they're reborn. Um, yeah, Log Horizon guy was caught for tax fraud, but he did his time and he had started writing again. I haven't kept up with it in a long time, so I have no idea whether he kept going. It's probably it still is going, probably, yeah. Um, anyway, yeah. So yeah, I kind of feel like to me that these I am is it. Sorry, I'm just taking a look at your comments here. SAO is a remote control isekai. Oh my god. That's kind of funny. Um, oh, Grimgar fell off by the end. I really like the first volume of Grimgar, but um, when I was looking at the ongoing stuff, I kind of felt like that was going to be the thing too. Um, but yeah, but I guess I kind of feel like so. I think ultimately, you know, it sounds like most of you don't really disagree with my thoughts on isekai, which is good. That's good. That means I can have some of these discussions and I won't look like a complete moron. I appreciate that. Um, I, yeah, oh, Log Horizon, it's still on it's gone back on hiatus. Oh, well, of course there is. Um, yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah, started using their powers here. Oh, yes. Okay. So yeah, that you're right. So I'm seeing like you're seeing like there's a change now where like people go, they get isekai, they become powerful, and then they return to our world and use their powers. There's actually like an anime on right now. I've just seen it on Twitter. I know the I don't know. Did the light novels get licensed? I can't even remember what the heck it is. It's like some ridiculous title, right? Like I got super powered in another world and then became like ruled here, or I don't know. I can't remember. I haven't been paying attention. That's the other thing about like this panel is that I'm kind of like feel free like you can put it in the comments here. You can put it in like the response to the announcement of this live stream. Um, like, are there really good? Like, I don't have time to read books right now. I hate to say that, but that's truth. What I do read, it usually takes me a long time. But are there like in terms of anime or maybe even some manga, like are there like really good isekai that have come out in like the last 2 years? I got a cheat skill in another world and became unrivaled in the real world too. Yeah, there we go. Cool. Thank you, Arif. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. Uh, oh, did Yen? Oh, Yen did license it. Okay, I knew the manga had been licensed. I couldn't remember if the light novel had been licensed. Um, so audio. Why am I disappearing audio wise? Oh, audio, or do you mean audiobooks? Audio, yeah, audiobooks. This is like a big thing now. A lot of these light novel companies doing audiobooks. I I got to admit, when the first, like, they announced these at first, I kind of thought, meh, are these really going to be a thing? But like more and more companies are doing them now. So I'm kind of thinking like they must have done okay. They must be doing all right. Any of you guys digging audiobooks? Any of you taking advantage of that and digging that? Um, I listened to the Solo Leveling, the first volume, and it was good and bad. I kind of wish they had used real sound effects instead of the guy like doing the red sound effects, although I imagine that there was probably some kind of licensing reason that they had to read it exactly as it is and couldn't alter it that way, but oh yeah, Faraway Paladin. I really liked Faraway Paladin. Actually, that's got a second season coming anime wise, isn't it? I think I just saw I think I just saw an image released of that yesterday on Twitter. I was kind of surprised because I hadn't even realized they had announced a second season for it. So, but I don't even know if the light novels are still on hiatus or not. But I mean, the thing I liked about Faraway Paladin is that again, it felt like it broke the mold a little bit. Like, it was definitely not, at least in the first couple volumes that I read, it was definitely not fan servicey. There was a really good like I really liked the magic system. I liked how the magic system tied into kind of like the world state and how the world operated. I kind of thought that was really, yeah, I thought that was like a lot of good stuff about that. I actually really felt like Faraway Paladin, the whole isekai element was almost completely unnecessary. It read so much more like just kind of like a standard high fantasy, but anyway. Um, Excuse me. Yeah, reverse isekai, that seems to be a bigger thing now. Like, I mean, I shouldn't even say now. I mean, The Devil is a Part-Timer is a reverse isekai, for goodness sake. And that's like an older series. I mean, that's kind of a thing, right? Um, where main character is an animal-obsessed wrestler and it was silly and ridiculous. Well, I mean, it's okay if it's played for like total jokes. I kind of think like sometimes media in general is more enjoyable when it's self-aware. Like I kind of felt that like that was one of the things that I kind of enjoyed about The Eminence and Shadow is that it really felt like the author knew what they were doing, right? Like they were self-aware of the tropes. They were self-aware of just kind of how silly isekai could be, right? Um I just I appreciated that. I appreciated that sort of self-awareness. Kame no Michi, okay, recreators, yeah, okay. Dead Mount Death Play, isn't that that's a newer series, right? But anyway, um, Wazug. We are meta now, confirming. Did wait. Did they make a vending machine isekai one, or you mean like they've made anime similar to the vending isekai one? Because I hate to say it, but the vending machine isekai one was not anywhere near as bad as it should have been. And I'm not saying that it was great. I'm not saying it was high like literature, but like, yo, it should have been the most awful piece of writing of all time, and yet it probably had better character development than others that I saw. Vending machine is getting an anime? No way. Really? Oh, oh god. I shouldn't even be I shouldn't even be surprised. I shouldn't be. Oh man. Wow. Wow, really? Boxo. Wow. That's okay. Well, like I said, honestly, There were worse isekai, man. There were worse isekai with less crazy premises. I've gotta, like, I'll be honest. Like, yeah. I think the silliest thing about that whole thing was that he was obsessed with vending machines and that he died because he didn't want to see a vending machine get wrecked and that he got crushed by trying to catch it before it got damaged by falling off a truck. That was probably the stupidest thing in the whole book. And I mean, that's in the first like 4 pages, so it's not even a spoiler. Oh, man. Yeah. Yeah. Boxo. Oh, man. That's funny. Hey, you know what? Actually, I watched the anime for I'm Standing on a Million Lives, and I didn't mind that, actually, that one. I did not think that that was so bad. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, didn't Vending Machine, like, I'm surprised Vending Machine got adapted because it only had like 3 books, I think. And I thought yeah, it got canceled. I don't think it anyway, whatever, man. I mean, it's whatever. It's cool. Um yeah, all right. Oh, there was a second season. I don't think we watched the second season of Standing on a Million Lives. Oh. Hmm. Hmm. All right. Well, I mean, hey, that's all right. It's not tragic to die doing what you love. Well, I guess that's fair. That's fair. Um uh my guy, World's Finest Assassin, I read the first volume and that was a hard nope for me. Sorry. Sorry if you like it. I mean, hey, each to their own, but nah, that was a hard no for me. I was not into it. Yeah, I was not into it. Oh, you watched the second season? Okay, whatever. That explains it. Okay, let me just see here. All right, let's talk a little bit. We'll go through. I'm taking a look at. So I'm still watching your Yojo Senki. Okay, I don't. Yojo Senki, was that released under any other title? Because I don't recognize that title. Oh, I know World's Finest Assassin got an anime. I avoided it like the plague. I'm well aware that it got an anime. I avoided it. So yeah. Um, yeah. So let's answer a few of these questions. Ciel's thrown a few things into here where I might not have seen them. So we'll talk a little bit about non isekai stuff, although we'll certainly come back to it. Um, so, how's life and work? Is work more stable or less hectic? Oh, work blows. Work absolutely blows. It is just, it's ridiculous. I said it to somebody else like, um, so there's a creator on YouTube named Stephen He. Um, Funny stuff. Funny stuff. Anyway, he did a video where he kind of did like a behind the scenes on his creative process and stuff like that. And there was this one part in the video where he kind of talked about how when he was so focused on the business side of things that he found like it was very hard to try and be creative. That he found it was almost like the creative part of his brain got like shut down because he was so focused on business stuff. And I got to be honest, that I related to that so hard because, you know, I am just the brain never shuts off of work, it seems like, especially cuz like things have been ridiculous. And you know, I'm sure it's not a surprise to any of you if you've been like, and it seems to be all over the world. So I mean, even if you're not here in Canada, you probably, this won't surprise you, but you know, businesses be struggling to keep staff. I work at a 911 call center, an ambulance dispatch center, and we're no different. We're operating, like 50% less than what we should have. And it's crazy. And the staff are getting burned out, and as managers try and figure out what we can do, we're getting burned out. And yeah, it's no fun. But, you know, trying to make it work. Trying to make it work. The stream feels like a time capsule. Bro, I don't know what that's. Bruh. I hope that's not a comment on how old I am. Jesus. Or is it just because it feels nostalgic because I haven't been around for over a year? Oh, man. Um, so let's go a few things. Are videos coming back to the channel? Don't know. That I'll just be really honest. I don't know. Probably there will be more content on the channel. It probably won't be. It will never be as much as what I was crazy cranking out back in the day. And it will probably be more varied, and what I read will probably be more varied, just because. Well, for one thing, I just don't read as much anymore as I thought. So, you know, eh. Um, but yeah, so content on the channel, yeah. I mean, I'm looking at some stuff, but I don't know exactly what. I haven't really made up my mind. Um, I have thought of maybe reading some more like one shot stuff, just because uh, I really can't keep up with the series. I like reading a variety of things. I also have found that um, you know, the a lot of the ongoing series and light novels, a lot of it felt the same. So I probably, if I get back to talking about novels on the channel, it'll probably be like one-offs. Um, like that's, yeah. Well, yeah, and Kirby, you're seeing the same thing, right? Like, you know, yeah. Well, sometimes, yeah, you've got to make choices, man. You've got to make choices about what you're going to do and what's important. Um, yeah, maybe I can react to some shows. I'll get you guys to recommend like some awful anime, and I'll watch an episode of it and you can watch my absolute disgust at it. Um, yeah, anyway. Um, a couple series questions, thoughts on Mushoku Tensei. I mean, the first volume was okay, but I know a lot of people love. Um, I know a lot of people love Mushoku Tensei, but the first volume just didn't grab me. It was okay, but it wasn't like, yeah, I'm not, no hate, but I didn't love it either. And there was definitely react. Okay, but which Mario movie, Kirby? The old one or the new one? Yeah. Oh man. Anyway. And yeah, see, yeah. Anyway, yeah, Mushoku Tensei. I mean, like I said, I think the problem with Mushoku Tensei now is that I've read so many other things before it that it just doesn't, it didn't grab me enough. And I know everybody goes on about how, like, oh, it's so cool because it follows him throughout his life and it's more of a life story and blah 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 blah. I mean, okay, cool, but like I said, I'm just not really gonna get it back into lengthy series. Ascendance of a Bookworm. I mean, I have talked a bit about that. Again, I thought that was kind of cool, man. I thought that was, it definitely had its moments. I think what I might do is go back and watch. If I did anything, I'd probably watch the anime of Ascendance. Because I don't know, like the books look like they get pretty thick. Did I finish Zeroth Maria? I did not, and I probably should, because I actually do have the remaining volumes, and it was much more of a, well, I mean, the author is more of a mystery writer, so there was a little bit more to it, and it was quite different from a lot of other light novels, so that might be one that I go back and finish, because I think I only had like 3 volumes left or something. Um, More villainous stories making publishers now. Yes, you guys are definitely correct. There are a lot more villainous stuff. I know that I kind of feel like the villainous stuff, I think J novel clubs had quite a bit of success with the J novel. With J novel club, I think they've had success with villainous type stories. They seem to definitely be getting more into them. Um, I've noticed their licenses, they seem to pick up quite a few villainous type stories. Obviously, Cross Infinite World, shout out to them because they're them and Tentai are like the last two indie, truly like small indie publishers of light novels. Seven Seas I know isn't necessarily owned by another big conglomerate, but they've certainly become one themselves. Of course, Yen, J Novel, they're all owned, right? So it's it is definitely a thing, right? Um, so yeah, shout out to the small guys. They're bringing out different stuff. Um, what's the big difference between isekai and mecha as far as isekai as culture versus isekai as marketing ploy? Oh, isekai is marketing ploy. Okay. 70s, 80s mecha was the big theme. Oh, okay, okay. Um, yeah, so isekai as culture versus isekai as a marketing ploy. Huh. That is an interesting question. Like, do you guys think, like, I mean, I know that I've been talking a lot about isekai in terms of its ability for a newer writer to get into stuff, but also in terms of a um, maybe a response to the world and maybe wanting to escape from the world. But do you think that it's become a big thing? Like, do you think it's become a big thing now that, now it's just a marketing thing? Like, here's kind of an interesting, here's sort of an interesting thing that I remember. And I haven't talked to Sam from J Novel Club in ages, so I don't have any idea about whether this is like still happening. But, I remember Sam used to say that, like, as much as everybody harped about isekai and saying there was too many of them and there was too much of them and they were getting crap and everything else, I remember Sam saying, like, you know, you can say that, but isekai makes whack tons of money, and it's because of the isekai that you can take a risk on another title, even if you know the title is not going to make a ton of money. So I kind of find that interesting. I kind of find that interesting. Like, so, I mean, it seems to me to be funny that there seems to be a contradiction, and maybe it, like I said, I don't know if it still exists, but certainly it did a couple years ago. There was this contradiction between a group of fans who, were quite vocal about, oh my God, no more isekai, but yet there was still a voracious appetite for it. So I thought that was kind of interesting to me. Um, Posted on their forums at some point that the female oriented stuff never does especially well. Really? So, really, that the female stuff never does as well? Oh, huh. Interesting. Now, when they said that the female oriented stuff doesn't do especially well, were they talking specifically about like the villainous type isekai, or were they talking more about like what was that, the J novel Heart, like that more shoujo type line that they have? Um, yeah, I'm curious about that. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of yeah. I think the silent majority just like isekai action stuff. I mean, let's be honest, right? Like, you know, obviously, right now where I'm in my life, when I'm pressed for time and everything else, I want to read something that's going to be kind of cool and is going to be engaging and is going to make me kind of, experience something different. Um, so yeah, I'm one of those people that's kind of like, okay, I've seen enough isekai. But for pure escapism and like pure just like, just go along for the ride and not have to engage a crap ton of gray matter for it. Yeah, man. I mean, it's still a thing. Like I said, lit RPG is basically like isekai, and my God, it is a massive market too. Like, absolutely. Um, Oh yeah, and small publisher. Oh yeah, Soul Press. Yeah, I never talked about Soul Press. Soul Press happened while I've been sort of out of the scene, but yeah, I did. That is a thing. Yeah, I did. I mean, honestly, if you go back to like an old episode of the Light Novel Podcast, I can't even tell you which one it was, but I remember when Soul Press came out and we were talking about it and we were like, so these guys are brand new out of the gate. None of us have heard anything about them, but they they're going to do light novels, manga, and visual novels. And I think at the time we were like, yo, that is too much. Like, how do you make that work? How do you keep it going? Like, wow. Wow. Um, and so yeah, it doesn't really blow my mind that Soul had problems. Um, yeah. And yes, I won't name names and I won't say anything specific, um, but actually, no. I mean, I know a couple people talked about it on Twitter, so it's out there in the public realm. Soul Press, like, yeah, it sounds like the way that place was run, just they got run into the ground. They went kaputski. Um, Cross Infinite World seems to be doing quite well. Um, Tentai has had some rough moments, but it is alive and well. They're doing their thing. Um, to be honest, I've been doing some work in the background with Tentai, um, and so I know that they're up and running. Alex has been basically a one man show, and he's he's gone through some things, but it seems like Tentai's back on the road, and they've definitely got stuff happening. So I think that Tentai's going to make it. Cross Infinite World, like I said, Cross Infinite World initially, I was kind of like, I don't know whether they're going to make it because, again, they were licensing very small, unknown titles, but they licensed some good stuff and it was pretty cool. So, they've made some good decisions and now they're getting like some more A-list titles and titles with more like, definitely some clout. So they seem to be doing quite well as well. So yeah, I mean, it seems like the light novel industry, North America wise, is kind of like stabilized a bit. Um, that seems to be a thing. Um, so yeah, I think that we'll probably see. Tentai is going to have less books. I don't think that's going to be as aggressive as Alex had initially hoped a couple years ago when he started the company. But I think you're going to just see like a pretty consistent, um, you know, release of stuff. It's just not going to be. They're not going to be like 5, 6, 7 titles a month. It's just that's not going to happen for a good long while. But I think they're going to be good. I think it's going to be all right. So yeah. Um, Reincarnate as the last of my kind. Yeah, that was Cross Infinite World. Yes. Um, so yeah. Uh, oh, Sydney thought I was dead. Low key dead, high key not. I don't know. Whatever, man. Like, yeah, no, I clearly not dead. Yeah, Tentai. Yeah, I know it's a Spanish company, but yeah, I guess they are not doing the Spanish side of things. I think they might. I'm not sure whether Alex is going to do like because I think he had released at least one or two titles in Spanish, and I don't know if he's going to do those. But I don't know if. But it doesn't seem like any of the new stuff definitely is going out in Spanish or the last couple series that they've been working on. It doesn't seem like those are going out there. Um, Opinion on Chinese anime and full CGI anime? Well, I mean, let's be honest. Like, the anime in general is being so farmed out to so many companies now that if it's done in China or not, whatever. And I mean, Chinese animation, like, I haven't really seen much to have an opinion on it, but you know, um, whatever, man. Everybody's got their own thing. It's cool. Like I think it's all right. Um, as long as the story's good, right? Like even animation, like pardon me, I can handle some less than a stellar animation if it means that I get like a good story out of it. And like even all CGI, I mean, I don't know, man. All CGI is like, I don't have a problem with CGI series, just as long as it looks half decent. I'd actually rather just see a series done in all CGI than series that do like 2D and then have like half-assed kind of CG in it. I mean, some anime's done great stuff with CG and it's pretty seamless. Or I know that like there's been a number of series where like if they were mecha, the mecha was CG. And I think I thought that was okay. Well, I thought it was all right, man. So, um, AI anime backgrounds. uh, well, AI art backdrop anime. Well, seeing as how I used AI art on the like thumbnail for this, I I I literally was like, I don't know what to do for a thumbnail for this, so I literally went to Midjourney, put in the word isekai, told it to use its anime dedicated generator, so like its generator that bases it on like anime cell art and stuff like that, and went go, and here's the image. And here's the image. So, you know, um, I am not going to sit here and talk crap about AI art because I do use it. Um, you know, and don't get me wrong, if I had the money to get a real artist to do stuff, cool. I think human artists still do amazingly good stuff, but I love right now using like AI stuff for inspiration. I love that I can create character models in AI and be able to like have it as a visual reference because I'm a fairly visual person. I like that I could write a character and actually go into AI and describe them and have a picture of that person to refer to. I just think like that is definitely a it's a great creative aid. And I don't see really like at this point. I mean really, when you've got no money, using AI art is no different than grabbing free images off the internet. I mean, it just I don't know. I don't want to get into that whole debate about AI and everything else. But it's definitely a very interesting tool. And like even I do some writing, um, and I have used like Chat GPT when I've had writer's block. Um, you know, it's like I said, it's cool that you can use it, especially like to try and get over creative humps. That I think is like my main use for it. Um, and to do quick and dirty thumbnails apparently. So yeah. Um, didn't a big game publisher get caught using AI art with stolen art with blurred out Getty Images watermark on it? Dude, like here's the thing. So let me tell you, AI art is both phenomenal and scary because I like playing with Midjourney just for fun stuff. Um, and I typed in magical girls into it, and I swear to God, it basically spat out every character from Madoka, like almost exactly. Madoka characters. Maybe the hair was a slightly different shade of pink. Like I was like, I looked at it, I was like, oh, that is so close to copyright. Damn, like, wow, that was whew. Yeah, that you got to be careful. You got to be careful. Um, you know, and yeah, like Adobe's now started one, Adobe Firefly. I got in on it, but I haven't like actually really played with it a lot. But they're using it. It's all stuff that they have permission to use, so it's not you don't run into that potential that it's actually thieving stuff and that you're going to get images that are so close to an actual image where yeah, like it's crossing a line. That yeah, I mean that again, like this is the thing, right? They're great tools. I mean, you ignore them kind of at your own peril. I mean, obviously depending on what you do, like everything's a little bit different, but um, at the end of the day, they're here. They're definitely not going anywhere. I think it's really up to us to make sure that we're using them in ways that are interesting and are useful. As I said, as a person who writes, definitely there's a little bit of you know scary, but yeah, it's a little. um. Oh yeah, Midjourney is just like a rabbit hole, man. Like, oh, I literally could just sit there and like run prompts on Midjourney for hours, like just to see what will happen. And I love just typing in, like, okay, let me see if I can do something here. Hold on a second. I'm gonna see if I can make something happen. Um, no, I don't think. I'll probably screw up the whole stream if I do it. Anyway, so like I literally went into Midjourney and I typed in my name. Okay, Justus R. Stone. Because sometimes it's interesting and sometimes it generates like images of people when you give it a name and you're like, oh, okay, like that's kind of cool, right? This friggin' thing gave me 4 images of tombstones, my guys. Bruh. 4 tombstones. I'm like, I know the last name is Stone, but holy God, really? You immediately stopped? You immediately jumped to put me into a friggin' like grave? Damn. Harsh. I hope that's not like any kind of like clairvoyance on the part of that, but yeah, I was like, whoa, oh, um, Berserk of Gluttony PV. I haven't actually watched it. I have no idea. I'll have to watch it. Maybe maybe that's what I should do. Maybe like when they do like release a bunch of PVs, I'll do like some reactions to some of them. See what happens. Possibly correlated to R as part of RIP. Yeah, maybe. I mean, holy jumping. Let me just see if I can. Hold on. Hold on a moment here. I need to find it. Okay, hold on. If I screw this up, I apologize. Let's see here. Yeah, so there. Four tombstones. that that that's what it gave me for Justus R. Stone. It's put me in the grave. I was like, yo, that is just wow. Oh man. but they are cool. So well, thank you. Well, okay. Pardon me. Oh, they're very detailed tombstones. Don't get me wrong. I mean, like, it's Midjourney. It does awesome work, but it's just like, man, maybe like, yeah. I, I, like I said, like, I had put in some character names of stuff, and it had given me like these, like, pictures of people. So I thought, oh, I'll put my name in, and yeah, tombstones. Oh, well, it is what it is. I'm not too worried about it. um, have I read the Lord of Goblins OELN? No, no, I have not. The actually the one of the authors of Lord of Goblins did give me a copy of it, but I confess, like completely unsolicited, like he just sent it to me. And I just never got a chance to read it. I just never did. I don't know. Just never did. Like honestly, I have a couple of books laying around that I just never got around to reading because that's just the horrible person I is. Well, plus I just like I said, like I just but I'm like that and I don't know if you guys are like that, but like when you're I just find like I do tend to oversaturate myself on something and then I just burn out on it. Like I before I got into light novels, I read a lot of like young adult novels mainly because I like the whole urban fantasy, like paranormal urban fantasy vibe, and so much of that stuff is listed under young adult. Um, and man, I burned out on that stuff too because it was just like you're reading like all the same. Like, wow, yeah. So after a while, it became yeah. But I've had a break. I've been reading some other stuff, so no, I have not tried the Monogatari manga. I mean, I read the books. Uh, Although I have seen like pages of the Monogatari manga, and it was interesting. It was interesting. It was kind of cool. Like I like the art style and everything for it, but you know, good night, Twilight. Um, you know, it's but I guess it's. I think the thing is though is that like with me, I'm not often one to read a manga and the light novel or go the other way around. I may read a manga and then watch the anime or read a light novel and then watch the anime, but I think I mean no I've said it on the I've totally said it on the channel a few times. I cannot watch an anime and then go back and read the light novel. I have a very hard time with that. So, yeah, I don't know, it's just a thing. Hunger Games and Maze Runner? Oh yeah, read them. Yep, did that. Hated the third book of the Hunger Games. Hated it. And actually, Maze Runner, I think I only read the first two or three books. I don't think I even finished that one. So, but meh, that's a thing. There's hot boys in it now for some reason. Wait, you mean there's hot boys in the Monogatari manga as opposed to like, you know, everybody just looking like they're wasted out or whatever? Like, thanks, Kirby. Thanks for coming by. It's cool seeing some of the names that I recognize of different people like that I haven't seen in a while. So it's cool to see everybody. So yeah, um, yeah, rebuild world. I have heard of that one actually. That one was on Kono Light Novel ga Sugoi a couple of times, and I thought it sounded kind of interesting. Then I did notice that yeah, J Novel Club picked it up. Again, I probably won't read it, but but again, I think that given that light novels have a wider variety of genres, it would be good that it's good that they try and do more and like get more different genres. Although Man, some of the light novels I've seen licensed, I don't know. I don't know where the audience is for them. Yeah. Anyway. No, I have not read the True Tenchi Muyo LN. No, I have not. I haven't even watched all of the different anime of Tenchi Muyo, which is, considering that I'm an older anime fan, is probably some kind of level of blasphemy, but, it kind of is a thing. Read and review Demon Slayers so you can so you can stop sitting on spoilers. Oh, okay. I see that. Actually, you know what? That is something that I have kind of thought about doing, is like on the channel. I did a full on thing of Pandora Hearts. Like I read every volume and then would do like a reaction video to each volume. I have been kind of thinking that, like, I would, that might be something I'd like to do, is actually read a whole manga series, but I'd want it to be a bit shorter. Like I don't want to get into one of those, like, 23 volume, etc type ones, because that's a lot. But but again, like, these are just things that I've thought about. But I mean, Demon Slayers isn't too bad. Become a React channel. Like, I don't really like. I don't know. React channels are. I wouldn't want to become a full on React channel. Maybe every once in a while. We'll see. There's lots of things I can do. I'm really like, I'm really into, like, right now. Like I said, there's another YouTube channel that I've done a few stories on. Um, like it's called Restless Shadows, and I've been writing like short ghost stories on it, and then CL's done some awesome audio editing on it. Music and voice effects, and, like, oh my god, like, it actually makes my middle of the road stories sound really awesome. But anyway, that's a thing. But but so I've been really into, like, ghost stories. And it's kind of funny, and, like, because I am, like, the biggest horror movie wuss. Like, I am a hide behind a pillow kind of dude. I will admit it. I am one of those people that gets a jump scare and, like, freaks out, and I am one of those people that, like, have unreasonable nightmares when I watch, like, some horror movies. Uh, but as of late, I have actually been watching more ghost stories and getting more into those. And, you know, I've been kind of digging them. And I've been kind of thinking about, like, what, like, there's not a lot of, like, ghost story type light novels, or even, like, a lot of, you know, um, Japanese horror novels. I was actually looking that up to take a look at that. And I was like, there's not a lot. I mean, the closest thing is, like, Another, which I've always told myself I should read, but I have not gotten exactly, like, gotten down to that. But, um, but, it's just like, but yeah, I've been really into, like, ghost stories. And so I've been, like, thinking, if there was, like, a really good sort of ghost story-ish type manga. Um, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But, yeah, the Ringu series is actually available in books. Actually, we own them. I have them on a shelf somewhere in here. All of them. They are very divergent from the actual movies. um, um, no, I don't think I've ever heard of Dai Fantasy, but I can look it up. An old music. So it's like a kind of like a horror music video or something. Interesting. Huh. I'll have to check that out. Um, Die Fantasy. I'll have to look that up. Yeah. So I think that I think there's definitely stuff that I could do with the channel. There's stuff that I would like to that I think the channel could be some fun. But yes, I'll be dead honest. It is not going to become like the light novel obsessive channel that it was, just because I've kind of I kind of burned out on that. Um, you know, and again, no hate, but just yeah, like for where I'm at right now, I just want to have some fun with stuff, and just try and do some different things and try to get the old gray matter engaged with different things and try different things because like I said, I've found that I've been very like not creative, and so I'm trying to get that figured out. Have you heard about this hidden isekai gem called Nazeboku no Seikai? Oh, that's a lot of Japanese words. Why does nobody remember me in this world? No, I haven't. It's a manga. Oh, okay. Well, I can take a look at that. Um, oh, Oshi no Ko. Yeah, I mean, my God, like, can't even log on to Twitter for 5 seconds without knowing that one, man. Holy. Um, Sounds interesting. Oshi no Ko does sound interesting. Don't know if it's up my alley, but it's a thing. So anyway, yeah. So look up progression fantasy. It's like a much faster paced fantasy genre. Unlike its name, sci-fi can also technically be. Oh, okay. Progression fantasy. Okay. Yeah, I'll look it up. Sure. Let's plays. I'll go back to my Minecraft Minecraft streaming. I still have that world somewhere. Nah, like I probably would play something different, do something totally different. So who knows? Why wasn't I reborn in another world or get superpowers? Korean stuff. Now, here's the thing. I have not read a lot of Korean novels, but man, Korean like horror movies, Korean like TV series, there is a lot of awesome Korean stuff, man. Like, holy, like, there's a lot of really good Korea stuff out of Korea. Like some really good stuff. Yeah, like really cool stuff coming out of Korea. I'd say that probably a healthy portion of the stuff that we watch is Korean. Cause man, like there's just so much good stuff. And they've got some really great acting and like some really good characters in their stuff. Like, yeah, it's really, really good. Like, man, yeah, it's good stuff. I do enjoy Korean stuff. And like I said, Korean horror movies are, man, they got some stuff going on in them too. Wow. So, all right. Well, guys, it is 9:30. I've been talking for an hour and a half. Despite my glass of water here, my throat's getting a little bit dry and a little bit sore. And I appreciate you all coming by tonight and chatting with me and giving me some feedback, some ideas, listening to me go on and on and on. I really appreciate the fact that, like, despite my having not posted for a very long time, so many of you are still subscribed. I really appreciate that. And like I said, the plan is that I am back. And there's not going to be it's not going to be a whack ton of stuff, super amounts of stuff, but you know what? We're going to get some stuff on the channel. And I'm looking forward to trying some new things, and I hope you all will enjoy it. So, again, thank you all so much for joining me here tonight, and I will see you next time.